Hey everyone, welcome to Kempner Sports, where we talk all kinds of sports, but today we are here to talk about why the Canucks are so terrible, and I have a special guest, one of my friends, Trevor Caverly, and welcome to the show, man. So great to have you here.
Hey, great to be here. Long time watcher, first time caller.
Yeah, exactly. So I want want to bring you on to give some raw, real, like what you think, why we're so terrible. But before we do that, I just want to get into a little bit of history. So you're from Saskatchewan and you're a Canucks fan. I remember when we first met and I was like, how in the world are you a Canucks fan? So please tell us quickly your story, how you became a Canucks fan from Saskatchewan.
I think probably somebody put a curse on our family. It's at this point, it hasn't been a good thing. I've watched them lose 2 Stanley Cups in my life. The real reason is that I really young. I mean, my name's Trevor, and Trevor Linden was on the Canucks. So I was like, I love that guy's name is Trevor, because I was little and dumb and I didn't know better. I should have known. Cheer for a team that's at least won 1 cup at that point. And then really, as I love hockey. I played hockey, up until I was 16. I still play hockey recreationally today. And I love Pavel Bure, the Russian Rocket. He was exciting. He was probably one of the most exciting guys in the league when I was in, grade 1, grade 2. And that's really when I started cheering for the Canucks, was about 91, 92. I liked this Russian Rocket as a kid in like grade 1. I just was obsessed with him and his hockey cards and his number 10, and wore that number in every sport I played for the rest of my life. And there was something about him and Trevor Linden. And then as you got to that 93, 94 season, you just threw that whole team was exciting. Kirk McLean and, even being a little guy, I still remember the stack the pad save that he made. I remember Bure's goal against Calgary and the stick whipping over the glass. And, so it's this disgusting romance that I have for this team that constantly breaks my heart. And I'm a Valentine's baby, so this makes it even worse.
Well, that's an awesome story, man. And you know what? I actually didn't know that the stick went over the glass. I learned something new today. That's hilarious. That's one of my favorite goals. Yeah, so that's where that team was fantastic. Bure's my favorite player of all time, so I'm with you. And they roped us in, and now it's. But anyways, okay. So Canucks are terrible, and we're just being honest here. They are absolutely terrible in this shortened 56 game season, and do you think they're terrible, or is it just me?
Yeah, being employed as a pastor, I probably can't say on air without losing my job how I feel about this team right now. It's painful. I mean, 2011, watching them lose the cup was painful. This is arguably up there in terms of pain. We haven't. I don't know if this stat's true. I never went looking to actually see, but Twitter's where I get everything, right? So whether it's true or not, who knows? But I swear I read something the other day that said that we have never had a losing streak like we've just recently had since 94, 95. And I don't know if anybody can verify that watching this and comment and let you know, but if that's true. I mean, I know in the last 10 years, we haven't had a moment like this where there's genuine fear and panic in the camp. And especially after tonight. I think tonight was a huge loss to lose to Calgary. And I tweeted out, because that's what I do to let my anger go, right?
Yes, you do. And that's why you're the only person I follow on Twitter. You know that? When you send a tweet out, I get a notification. You're the only person in the world that I do that with because it's just so
you-
hilarious. Follow Caverly on Twitter. What's your handle?
I think it's at Trev Caverly. I think that's it. So
Okay, I'll post it in the video anyways.
Follow if you dare. Follow if you dare. But this is the reality is I'm watching this game, and I haven't wholeheartedly watched a game since they lost in Montreal a couple weeks ago. I've picked up parts of games.
Mm-hmm.
I followed along on Twitter, but I don't have the heart and the stomach right now to watch what's happening because it doesn't make sense. On paper, they are a better team than Calgary, okay? I mean, somebody can argue with me on Twitter about that if they want. They can fight me on it. But on paper, this is a better team. And, say what you want to say. They're at the very least, they're an equal team to Calgary.
Right.
So you think after going and losing, the last five? I think this was their sixth loss in a row now again. And you think they come out just firing. You think something just clicks, something changes, something shifts. You want to score on Markstrom. You want to kind of show them that they're not the better team. And what we get tonight is a team that I feel like they played pretty well, actually. I wasn't watching like this horrible massacre, but you get a team like Calgary that they're up 2-1 going into the third period, and they haven't scored a goal yet. Calgary didn't score either of those goals. Right. They had deflections that went their way. And hey,
off of our players.
Off of our players. And don't get me wrong. Okay, it takes skill for Cal. Yeah, if there's Flames fans watching this, which, maybe there are, go find a different channel because I'm going to bash you all night. But, the reality.
They're laughing at us because they won.
Well, and we don't get bounces like that this year. That's the difference, though. We have not had bounces yet this year, and we're in a terrible year to not have bounces. Like Elias Pettersson in the slump of his career so far, which is fine. Now, the guy's 22, right? I think 22.
Yeah, he's
and he's going to bounce back. He's going to be fine as long as our fan base doesn't destroy him like we like to do with everyone else. The reality is that he hasn't had that bounce that's just going to kick him back into gear. He hasn't went on a 4-game point streak since. Tonight looked really good with him and Besser. That first goal from Besser, it gave me the false hope that every game with this team gives you, where you think this is the game they're going to turn it around.
Right.
And it's a lot like trying to date girls in high school. You're in class and she lends you a pencil because she's nice, and you're like, oh, she must like me, and you realize she was just lending you a pencil. She doesn't even know you exist. So it's just heartbreak over and over and over again. And after a while, you stop asking to borrow a pencil.
Right.
It's just it's painful. It's painful to watch.
Painful.
And the other interesting thing is, of all the years for us to have a slump like this, we're also in a year where we're in the All-Canadian division. And if you look at the Canucks all-time record versus Canadian teams, and actually, if you don't even stick it to Canadian teams, if you look at their all-time win-loss record versus every team in the league, the number one team they've lost more games to than any other team is Calgary.
Wow.
And don't quote me on that. If it's not Calgary, it's Edmonton.
It's
if
only
it's
going
not Calgary,
online.
it's Edmonton.
The whole internet.
I'm telling you,
the whole
if it's not,
this.
I have such a good memory for this. If it's not Calgary, it's Edmonton. They're 1-2. The top two teams we've lost more games to as a franchise is Calgary and Edmonton.
Because we're in the same division?
100%. So you're going to play more teams and more games against them. But get this though, in the top 5, then Montreal's in the top 5.
Wow.
So out of all that, so we only play. There's only 6 other teams to play.
Well, and Winnipeg's destroyed us for most of our time too.
So
not back in the day, but
Winnipeg and Ottawa are fairly low on the list of losses as a franchise, and then Toronto's mid of the pack. But so you're thinking you're playing 6 teams all year. These are the 6 teams you're going to play for 52 games. 3 of the 6 teams, as a franchise, you've never beat. You're not sitting 500 against them, even as a franchise. Which I get year over year can change based on teams and that. But I mean, how many odds do you have stacked against you? And then I think we all came into this year thinking Demko was going to be the guy from playoffs last year. But you always forget that playoff momentum is a lot different than they had a couple months break. They come back in, and Demko's got all this pressure now because he's watched them move Markstrom out. He knows this is his shot. To me, it was a terrible move. And I think that's what we need to be talking about is like, who's responsible for that terrible move? Because I get the outrage of like, hey, we can't go into fire Benning. But part of me goes, why not? I think the thing about Benning is Benning's done a great job with the team. There's no doubting that. There's lots of good things that you can attribute to Benning. But the things that we often give to Benning as, oh, Benning did this, I think are not actually it's not his benefit. It's not because of him. It's because of the scouting team that he had. And he fired the best scout they had in the franchise 2 years ago when they let go of, I always forget his first name. His last name's Brackett. I just remember for the life of me, the pressure of knowing millions of people will view this has gotten me losing his first name.
Okay. And I want to get into that just in a moment, but let's just stick on like why they're so bad. I'm with you. It's very, very, very difficult to watch. Like it's like, do I watch the game tonight? And as a fan, you don't want your fans saying that. And you're right. It's an absolute embarrassment to be losing to this in the all Canadian division. That's never going to happen again. So I like to have fun with my friends and stuff on Facebook, and I say Canucks, and then put the greater than symbol and whatever Canadian team is just to rile them up. Well, I have hardly been able to do that. I know. And we've been so awful that like it's like I can't even say anything just as even in a joke. So I don't know about you, but like to me, the thing about this year that's just so difficult to watch, and this is why I don't want to watch anymore, is the turnovers. They are atrocious. Like,
absolutely.
How are we passing it to the other team consistently, right? Yeah. And I don't know. Have you noticed that? Is that just me? Like, I kind of feel like I'm like, what is going on? Because honestly, like, yes, we have some different pieces, but the core is still the same. How did we go from a year of almost beating Vegas in the playoffs, having a like that was fun to watch, right? And now you can't even watch the games because they're passing it to the other team consistently. Like, am I only one seeing this here or what?
No, for sure. I mean, I think that probably any fans that really care about the team and watch, closely and, you can't deny, like, there's something weird. There's something weird about it when you have most of your core. They didn't bring in a ton of new guys. They're arguably better defensively. Everybody thought Hamonic was the greatest thing in the world to happen to us, which I honestly, again,
he was okay.
I'm like, Hamonic's fine, but like, I didn't think it was like this game-changing upgrade. I just thought, oh, he's, he can add hopefully, where we've lost. And I think losing the seniority that Tanev brought to the game, the maturity and the leadership that somebody that spent 10 years with your organization, and the way that fell apart, you have to wonder when guys have loyalty to each other in the dressing room, everyone knows they play better. I mean, the story of the Washington Capitals winning the cup was that this was a team that banded together and was playing video games between games and taking the pressure away and just loosey-goosey enjoying life together. And it changed everything for them as a team. I think last year in the playoffs, everybody said the Canucks wouldn't even get past St. Louis. And you had a band of guys that came together and said, everyone doesn't believe in us. Let's believe in ourselves. Mm-hmm. And they had the leadership on the team too, though. They had, Edler's still there and Bo Horvat's still there, but they got guys like, Tanev that were for sure a part of that, a massive part of that. And so when you have a guy like Tanev, who I think you can argue was a core part of the leadership, and you find out that he was more than willing to stay. And we know the Canucks issue is always cap, okay? They don't have money because of dumb contracts. But when you hear that he didn't even get texts back, when he got cold-shouldered from Benning, it's hard to stay and fight for Benning. It's hard to not fight that what's being said about him. And then you got to think, so if it's frustrating to me and I'm an outsider, I'm a nobody, I'm just a fan, and he's friends with guys on the team, it's got to cause tensions in the team, and it's got to change morale for the team. And maybe I'm overcomplicating it, but at the end of the day, at this point, you're probably thinking of everything. Like, like something is wrong with this team. Braden Holtby himself has been quoted now saying, that this is a dressing room that's not together.
Wow.
He basically, said that, like, listen, that there's just, like, again, I'm paraphrasing exactly what he said. And I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth either, because, with our luck, like, this goes viral. I'm from Marshall. He's from Marshall. And now, now I look like
we were excited
jerk.
when he got signed by us. I mean, he must be second guessing himself now. Like, he could have went to Edmonton. He could have went to Calgary, and he chose Vancouver. And at the time, it looked like a good move. He must be saying, I should have went to Edmonton, right? Close to home. I mean,
totally. I mean, at this point, any goalie's probably thinking, I should have went anywhere. I should have went to Columbus, or,
right.
Like, it's bad if you want to play for Tortorella. Like,
right.
It's just, like, to me, the turnovers are insane. It's a team that doesn't seem like they're together on anything. And then defensively, they're not there. And so you have this new goalie in Holtby who, leading into this, his GAA has been not great, but you've got a Vezina goalie though. Like, he's only a couple years removed. And then you have Demko, who wants to compete. And again, I think tonight it's hard to argue, like, that he made some good saves, but like, what do we need to do? Like, what do we need to, is it a goal? It's not,
I don't think it's a goalie problem.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, like, I mean, I think the reality of us defensively is that we have some key puzzle pieces as a team that we can be excited about. Like, Quinn Hughes is going to win a Norris. Okay, it's just a matter of time. I thought if the team was hot, that he could even do it this year and be one of the youngest guys to ever win a Norris. Okay, I mean, he's broken. He's broken or walked the line of records already, and I think the thing we all look forward to this year too was seeing the connection him and Pettersson have. So you have this beautiful aspect on defenseman. Edler hasn't been quite the glass slipper the last 2 years that he normally is. And it seems like when he's healthy, that it's not bad to have him in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can think of many times that, like, every other penalty seemed to be an Edler penalty, but now we have Tyler Myers for that.
Yeah,
so
that's what he does. Playoffs now. Even tonight, that penalty on Tanev was stupid.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, like, the craziest thing about Tyler Myers is he's the softest 6'9" guy maybe in the world, not just in the NHL. I swear, like, I know soft serve ice cream that's harder than that guy, and it drives me crazy.
Okay, but here's the thing. I think it's because he's tall and he's big that we expect him to play like Chara, but that's not his game. His game is not to hit. His game is his reach. Knock the puck out of the way, be physical, and, like, he's physical. He just doesn't destroy guys on a hit. So that's where, like, when he tries to be Mr. Hero and crush guys is when he gets in trouble, because he always does it the wrong time. Cross checks a guy right in front of the ref, and it's like, are you kidding me right now? Rams his head into the ice. It's like, I don't mind having him on team, honestly, until those moments.
He's a good bottom six defenseman. That's what I'll say.
Really?
He's not a top four. He's a bottom six defenseman. Listen, he's a lot like my little brother. This is how. My little brother played sports too. And then the first time that he got a trophy in whatever sport he was playing, after that, he never showed up again. Okay.
Wow.
And so this guy wins a Calder. This guy, you can ask him. He quit every sport he ever played. Okay. And he was good at those sports. But the reality is that he won a Calder when he was in Buffalo. And he was never the same player after that Calder. Okay, right. He was never even close to Calder worthy. And I actually think he won a Calder that year because it was such a weak year for rookies. Like, that's it. He didn't win a Calder because he was actually fantastic. I mean, again, prove me wrong, argue with me. Sure, I'm happy to admit if I am wrong, but I feel like it was one of the weakest years in terms of Calders. He wins it. Good for him. Congratulations. When he was in Winnipeg, I think everyone said the same thing. Thank God they had Byfuglien and Bogosian, because you didn't notice Myers and how weak he was for 6'9".
My Winnipeg friends do not like Myers. They were thanking us when we signed him. They were laughing at us that we signed him for so much.
Yeah. It's and again, like
I don't think he's as bad as you guys think, but anyways.
See, but I do. Here's the thing. At what point does coaching step in and say, listen, you either act 6'9" or you don't play?
Right. Well, because we don't have any other options.
Well, I mean, at this point, the option is like pick a guy off the street and stick him in skates because like he's going to give the puck away less and take less penalties probably. Yeah. I mean, it worked for Carolina.
Okay. So let's you're now into the realm of how do we fix this? Okay, so let's talk about like we understand it's been awful, it's been atrocious. I think it's team defense, not just defense. I think it's team defense because the forwards are turning over the puck at an alarming rate. So, like, how do you think this gets fixed?
Man, like, again,
I mean, if we get this right, we're going to get hired. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Believe me. Nobody, according to what most of Twitter probably thinks, I think the fix to this is getting rid of the refs, right? So, and at the end of the day, I mean, our favorite cry as Canucks fans is the refs, and there are times I think it's justified, and every team cries about the refs. So the guys that are on there like, Canucks fans cry about refs. I'm like, yeah, I've lived in Edmonton long enough to know they cry about everything too, okay? Right. And Flames fans, don't even get me started. But anyways, for us in terms of a fix, I don't know. There's no simple fix to this. The simplest fix is a time machine to go back and keep Stetcher and keep Tanev. I think if you keep those two guys on your team, you're immediately having a little more stability on the back end. So even if you are having turnovers, you have guys that know the system, they know the culture of the hockey team, and you just hope that I believe it would pick up the game a bit. But I don't know. Like, it's not like all of our front end is new to this either. So why are they turning the puck over so much? I don't know. They're smarter, much smarter analysts, much smarter guys than me. They probably have an answer.
I want to throw this out here because I know that you've kind of thrown this out here, an idea, but like what Vancouver seems to be in all of the. By the way, I don't know if you heard, but Team 1040 Vancouver got axed, which is horrific. Anyways. So Sports Talk Radio now is Sportsnet 650 only, which I really enjoy those guys, but it's better. But what I'm hearing is fire Benning, fire Green, and that's going to fix our problems. And I'm like, how is that going to fix what's on the ice? Like, honestly, what is happening on the ice? Is that Green's and Benning's fault? Now, partially sort of. Benning's fault, right?
Maybe like Green's fault too. Like, it might be Green's fault too. I think there's an argument for Green. Here's the thing. I like Green. I don't have anything against him. He's one of those coaches that I don't really feel animosity towards that maybe some of the rest of Canuck fandom does. And I'm not really seeing that as much. I'm seeing Benning is getting all the hit right now. And I think getting rid of Benning, maybe it shakes the team up, but I don't know. Can you think of an example of a team where they fired the GM and the teams went, oh, the GM got fired? I can't think of one, but when coaches get fired, I think teams notice because the players deal with those guys directly. They're not dealing with the GM directly. It's pretty rare for GMs and players to have this direct relationship all the time, right? So to me, does Mike Green have that room anymore? It doesn't look like it. And like, how many games in a 56 game season do you give a guy to turn a team around? Because at this point, I mehave I think it's pretty much impossible for the Canucks to make playoffs. Like they literally have to go like 24 games. Like, they have to have 24 wins. What's it? 24-12-6 before this game, or 24-12-3 or something.
It's over. Let's just be honest, right?
I never say never, because you think of St. Louis, they lost like almost every game up to Christmas the one year, and then they won the cup. So maybe this is the year we win the cup, and it just doesn't even make sense. But to me, so St. Louis, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they fire their coach right around that time at Christmas too? That'd be something to look into. I just don't see how this team's gonna.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with you because I don't know if that's gonna help, because I'm thinking in a shortened season, let's get a great draft pick. Let's get like Benning is an incredible drafter. Let's just let him draft one more time. I think he is. Is he?
So I
He went and
hear
got
guys say
Quentin
this all the
Hughes.
time, but he didn't though. That's
Yes,
what
he
I'm
did.
saying.
He was thrilled.
He did. Absolutely not. You know who got Hughes? His scouting team, who was led by who? Judd Brackett. Okay. And you know who scooped Judd Brackett up? Minnesota. And you want to know why? Because he's a phenomenal. He's responsible for Besser. He's responsible for Elias Pettersson. Without Brackett, many guys argue that.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then let's can Benning right now.
So
listen.
So
okay. So yeah, I love Brian Burke. Okay, I'm so happy for him that he's now in Pittsburgh, and I think that's wonderful. But at the end of the day, he's going like that's the guy I wish we could brought back. Because he doesn't go into the dressing room unless he has to.
Yeah.
I mean, I love his raw, real stuff. But he doesn't want to come back to Vancouver because we're so atrocious right now. You know, it's like, hey, let's go back to Vancouver or go have Sidney Crosby. I mean, it's a no-brainer. So I don't know who we're going to get as a GM at this stage. But if we go coach, let's just go. I mean, we can go back to Benning for a second here, but let's go coach for a second. I think Travis Green is better than I've thought. Like I was not a fan. I was not excited, but there's a lot of people last year talking about he's like in the conversation for coach of the year. And here we are a couple months later, and now like they want to fire him. I would fire Green if I could get Mike Babcock. I actually made a video on it. He's still sitting there. Like, who else is there out there right now who would be a better coach than Babcock?
Right? I would argue many.
Okay, so just give me two.
Yeah, anyway. Like in terms of actual names, actual guys, I don't know, but I think you could pick a guy running a UPS truck off the street and get a better team chemistry than Babcock. I think Babcock. I think everything that came out of the dressing rooms. When Babcock went from Toronto, said enough about that guy to hopefully he doesn't coach another team.
Well, hey, we signed Tortorella. What's the difference? He can't be that bad.
Oh,
anyways,
man. Like
the point is,
so
this is
Babcock.
My point. There's no who do we get? We fire him and what?
Yeah. I mean, with that, like that, I'm not going to move away from the Babcock thing real fast. It's not a Canucks thing, but the one thing that I'll never let go from Babcock is the whole Mike Modano story. You know, so Modano was like a few games away from, was it 500? And he only needed 2 games, and Babcock benches him for the last 2 games of the season to make sure he doesn't get to 500.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Like, I mean, there's the stories like that make me go like, guys like that shouldn't be in the league. Like, I don't care who you are. What he did with Jason Spezza. Absolute trash. Like, I mean, the guy is a trash bag. Okay. And God bless him as a human, but as a hockey coach, he's a trash bag. Okay. And I don't think there's room, you know, and again, even with Mike Green, like I don't have anything against the guy. I don't know if I think he's a great coach. I think that, you know, again, I'm not sure that letting a guy like that, but what do you do to shake up a team at this point?
Right.
And when you're this, like when it's looking like you're pretty much not going to make playoffs, is it even worth risking it? Like, to me, I don't know. I don't think you fire the coach in a shortened season like this when he could end up being the guy still. And, you know, like you said, he was a candidate for coach of the year and he looked great last season. This is a weird year. COVID's a weird thing. We're playing in a division. We've never played good against Canadian teams.
Right. Yeah. So I think these are really good points you raise, because this is what I don't get is like firing them is not going to solve our problems. I think personally that we should make a trade. Like, you know, that Virtanen Bennett video I made. I mean, that's just even something small like that. And those guys do the deal. Like, you got to have some kind of shakeup. Just say, okay, guys, if you're not going to play together, we're going to make like Pearson. Get rid of Pearson. You know what I mean? I don't know what you can get for someone, but like, I don't think there's any real market for Jake Virtanen, and we're all hoping he turns around and becomes something. No one's taking Eriksson.
We should do Eriksson and Sutter for Draisaitl, straight up.
Yeah, yeah, he's next level. So that's the thing, right? Even if it's a minor thing, to just shake it up a little bit. But we're so handcuffed with the cap that it's just I just think we just throw up our hands in the air and say, let's try our best to continue to improve. Every game's just a momentum shift, see some kind of improvement, and then like get a great draft pick, draft somebody good, and try to fix it in the off season. Because at this stage, what are we going to do?
Well, and so is this not the point where you start making the decision to ride or die Demko so he gets games in? Like, I mean, I know you brought Hopi in, like, get him mentoring the guy, give Demko as many freaking games as you can, because it doesn't matter if we lose now. Like, in a lot of ways. Again, something, I still think you got a good 10, 12 game buffer here where, like, if they go on a run and another team can drop off just as fast in a small division, right? But just, again, I can't help but come back to the Benning thing. We all protect Benning. If you're a Benning loyalist, you protect him because of draft picks. That's the argument I hear all the time. He got us Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. And okay, let's say he's a majority of the responsibility and it wasn't his scouting team led by Judd Brackett. Okay. You still have to go back and go, well, who's responsible for our cap issues though? Okay.
Right.
Who signed people to ridiculous contracts for unproven guys like Eriksson is a ridiculous contract. Sutter is a ridiculous contract. And arguably right now, they are the two reasons why we are where we're at, because without those two contracts, this team looks different. And then you cannot get around. He himself incriminated himself in that media interview and said that they ran out of time. They just ran out of time to make the signing for Tanev, right? And it's like,
yeah,
it's like, no, like,
I'm with you. I think the plan was to move on from Tanev. And I'll tell you why I think that. Because he and Edler are glass, and you can't have them both, because when they're both hurt, and that's why we never could move on. He's great when he plays. He's called a warrior. You're not going to give $4 million a year to a guy who's injury prone. I think that was one of the things where I appreciated they made the right call. As long as he's not hurt, it's an awful call. But, when at the beginning of the season you said, okay, well, we lost Tanev, but we got Schmidt. That's an upgrade. No, it has not been. We thought it was. Right?
Well, and depending who you talk to, though, like, because again, like, this was another one of the scenarios where I didn't think it was an upgrade. I was not a Nate Schmidt fan. I'm still not. I still don't think the thing about Tanev that you can't get around is when he's not injured, he's a consistent defenseman.
Yeah.
Nate Schmidt, that's not what you're hearing coming out of Vegas. If Nate Schmidt's so good, why is Vegas not keep him? That's what I always say about, like,
because they got Pietrangelo.
And I get they're moving space for Pietrangelo, but at the end of the day, if he's a really good defenseman, you find a way to get Pietrangelo in and you keep Nate Schmidt.
Well, you can't, because he's making $6 million a year or whatever he's making.
So
anyway, but let's just keep that going. Like, how do you do that? Okay, like Markstrom, for example. We were going to lose Markstrom or Demko. I think that him making that decision and just saying, like, I miss Markstrom. How do you let our MVP go, right? But the reason why $6 million for 6 years, no trade clause. We've already had problems with our goaltending. We're still paying Luongo. Yeah. So it's like we've learned from our mistakes, but then it's like, oh, I think we went like walking into the season, if they said we're going to go with Markstrom and Demko, and we know we're going to lose one of them, we're going to protect Markstrom. Would you been upset? I would have been.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't think the goaltending thing's what makes me mad about management. I don't think that was a bad call. It sucks. It would have been amazing if they had a bridge deal of some form to keep Markstrom for 2 more years. And but Markstrom knows his greatest value was right then. So why not go for the money, which that's the thing that I kind of hate about the NHL is that, get these teams where guys like Chicago, there's lots of stories of guys taking pay cuts over the course of them winning their 3 cups. Pittsburgh, same thing, and yet we have a team that, there's this chance even after last year to, man, Markstrom, you take a pay cut, like, you do a bridge deal. Who knows what this looks like? But again, I still don't think that's the core of the issue there. It's, it just comes back to I also don't think that that the Nate Schmidt thing that happened, I don't think that we lost Tanev because of not wanting to pay him. I think it was that he was on our list to potentially keep around, but he wasn't high on the list. And like, he hung around waiting for a deal.
Yeah, he did.
That's been confirmed over and over again.
Well, same as Hoffman, man. He was waiting to sign with Vancouver, and we couldn't make a deal to move the out cap space. And so he went to sign with St. Louis. He was it's all the rumors were saying that he was waiting. Why wouldn't Hoffman have signed? So you have Tanev and Hoffman. Maybe that was part of the Canucks plan to say, hey, what can we pull off here? Because they did free up all that goaltending money. They didn't pay Holtby crazy cash.
No, the Holtby deal was a good deal, and I think that can be argued for night and day. Like, people can't fight back against that. I mean, when you think about what Edmonton's paid Koskinen, and Edmonton fans will argue, "Oh, Koskinen's better than Holtby," blah blah blah. I mean, in terms of numbers right now, they have a bit of a case, but overall, he's not. If Holtby just has,
Well, if he was, why were they trying to get him?
Yeah, and that's just it. And it's one of those things where you feel for the guy coming in to such a broken team, because you think of, man, you take a guy like Holtby, you get him hot and on fire. He's a competitor, or like, he's a very competitive guy, and this team is not what any of us thought it would be this year. I just genuinely thought, there's 4 spots for playoffs. I genuinely thought Toronto's going to be one of those teams in there. I thought Edmonton's for sure going to be a team in there. And then I thought Vancouver was that number 3 team, and that the 4th spot was going to be fought out between Montreal, Calgary, and Winnipeg. And I think everybody knew Senators were going to be crap. Yeah. And here we are, just hoping we're not the new Ottawa Senators.
Well, I know, but if you watch my other videos, I said that I do not think Vancouver's going to make playoffs with this team. And that's the thing, right? So
then the real question is this. Who's in the draft this year, though? Because it's a pretty crap draft year. So, like, of all the years too, it's not like we're getting a Lafreniere out of first pick if we get first pick. Like, right. I mean, now Elias Pettersson was not like he was up on. So
yeah, I'm in that camp that it's not all bracket, it's Benning as well. But if you're right, then we're in big trouble, because
it'll show. And that's what I've said, though. I've said if it was bracket, it's these next few years that'll start showing, because now is when we're starting to draft guys where bracket hasn't had a say or a view in it, and it'll show up. And that's, when, but like, I don't know if Benning will be around for us to even have it matter, because how many games does this team lose before somebody, coach or management, will pay for losses at some point? And it'll either go, they make some crazy trade. And that's the worry here, is like, if they get desperate or they're not thinking logically in this, they could make a dumb trade. I think of how many dumb trades.
Honestly, who are they going to move? Are they going to move Brock? Are they going to move Bo? Are they going to move Pettersson? Are they going to move Hughes? No, they're not going to move JT Miller.
No.
Right? That's the core.
But could you imagine, though? Because I don't know. How many times have guys said stuff like that, though, and then like a trade's happened, though? Like, where imagine they trade Miller. Imagine Miller ends up in Toronto for like,
Tavares.
Oh yeah, for picks, right? And hey, it would free up cap space, but then, like, holy man, would that just, Vancouver Riot 2.0 would happen? Because why didn't we do something that extreme in the first place if that was what was always going to happen?
Yeah. Okay, so I think we've clearly communicated that Vancouver's terrible. The fix isn't as easy as everyone's claiming it to be. All right, well, thanks, man, for being on. Love having you, and we'll have to do this again one time. We got to do this with the other Trevor too.
Yeah, you know what? We'll do this when they officially either make or get eliminated, and we'll talk about it, and we'll get that censor bar ready. And
we'll just full rant it.
Yeah, come on.
All right. Well, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this on your social media. So appreciate having you here, man. And go Canucks, go.
Go Canucks.